pretend that you're the millionaire car salesman. Let's play. Let's play. Let's pretend that you're the millionaire car salesman. Are you having trouble selling? Your career is such a nuisance? Well, let's see if Nathan Hancock can limit your excuses. Y'all in trouble today.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is L.A. Williams, Vice President with Dealer Synergy and one of the creators of the Millionaire Car Salesman podcast. And man, I'm telling y'all, we got a treat for you today. One reason why it's a treat is because you actually have both hosts of the podcast on. And Sean, you know how rarely this actually gets to happen. This is real cool. What's going on, Sean?
Man, listen. What are these people's excuses? It's the end of the
You
month.
like, I'm jumping right into it.
Just jump. You know what? I mean, like you did the intro. You did okay. I owe you a check. You did your job. I just got to get to it, man. I'm tired of these excuses.
Oh my gosh.
Okay? I'm just tired of these excuses. There's salespeople, BDC reps, managers, and even owners, dealer principals out there in the automotive industry that are making excuses every day. Let's go through some excuses that I hear every day. You ready, LA?
Yeah, here we go.
Okay. Oh my God, my manufacturer, they don't have any programs. The manufacturer don't have any programs. We don't have enough rebates and incentives. The manufacturer. And then we get into other stuff. We get into the salespeople and the BDC reps bitching and whining. Oh, my manager.
Right?
My manager. Oh my God. Oh, and the customers, buyers are liars. Buyers are
all that stuff.
They don't answer the phone. They don't answer the phone. How do they submit a purchase request and they don't answer the phone? They don't ever call me back. They don't call me back. These people, Jesus Christ.
Wambulance.
Yeah, wham. And then it's, executive managers. Oh, I can't get my people to do this. I can't. And this is great because did you hire them dead or kill them after you got them?
That's the question.
If you are a dealer principal or a GM and you don't like your people, they're your people. They're yours. You know what I mean? I'm not saying they're it's the same thing as your children and your spawn, your seeds, but
right.
Your people.
Mm-hmm.
You, for whatever reason, recruited them, hired them, and you're paying them. But if you're frustrated with them, this isn't prison. This is a career. If you're not happy, if you're not fulfilled, then do something about it. And today is really special because I've got a guy who's completely blind. Okay, say hello, LA.
What's up, y'all?
That's my blind guy right there. I got a blind guy who flies all over the United States for the last 13, 14 years and trains tens of thousands of people on how to talk on the phone. But you know what's crazy? The blind guy is doing videos. He's doing video emails, video text messages, video demos. He's doing video through BombBomb. So how can a person that's completely blind, without a dog, without a cane, without a skateboard, without a robot, he gets his ass onto public transportation because he ain't driving, right? And he gets to the airport. And again, without a dog, a cane, without anything, he still finds his way on an airplane and finds his way to a dealership all over the country. And he is taking ups, doing TOs, doing videos, doing all this stuff. So what's your excuse? And then we got our special guest. LA, tell everybody who our guest is who's been patiently waiting right now.
So this gentleman, you've all heard on the podcast multiple times, Mr. Anthony Castillo. You've heard us talk about ChatGPT and all of that good stuff. And I told y'all that Anthony is who put me on really to ChatGPT. Well, who put on Anthony? Well, this gentleman right here, Mr. Hancock. And I'm not talking about the superhero from the 2008 Will Smith movie. I mean, this is Nathan Hancock, a superhero in and of his own right. What's going on, Nate?
What's going on, LA? What's going on, Sean?
Man,
I'm happy to be here, man.
ask the question again. What's all these people's excuses? And the reason why you're on the show, besides you being an inspiration, motivation, and you're a beast, is let's talk about this. Man, you've sold 26 cars in the month on the showroom floor. So you are a showroom salesperson, you're a car salesman, right, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so Nathan, you sell cars. You're a
Hmm.
26 car guy, and you've even made $210,000 in a year, correct?
Yeah, I mean, after taxes, probably closer to 170.
Listen, we're car people. We don't talk about taxes. We talk about gross. I mean, I don't care about it.
Absolutely.
I want to know what your gross was. What did you generate? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's correct.
So then here's my thing. LA, can you tell us why you selected him besides he was an inspiration to Anthony Castillo? Like, what about Nathan was just so motivating and just mind blowing, because we just said he sells 26 cars and makes 210 grand. That's
Mhm.
way above national average, but he's done it also.
Couple of key things. The first of all, he's an amputee, right? So, what is that? Explain to us what that means, Nathan.
Well, an amputee is missing a limb, so like a single limb. A double amputee is missing one or two or more limbs. I'm a
Okay.
double amputee. I don't have any feet, so that was a long journey. But yeah, I'm an amputee, and I have a pretty rare condition that affects pretty much
Right.
my whole
So
body
not
as
just
well.
the amputee situation, but
Yeah,
there's more to it, right? You got
yeah.
to tell them real quick about the condition. What is it again?
It's called arthrogryposis. And arthrogryposis happens when you're developing in the womb,
Yep.
and pretty much it's a muscular congenital disorder. So,
So
uh,
basically, what you're saying, your muscles aren't like long enough to kind of accommodate your bones. Is that basically how it breaks down to?
yeah, imagine like your cable steering or your brake lines are too short. So how like that's what's going on with me. So I have pretty severely impaired range of motion. My hands are kind of like Nosferatu hands, or
Mm,
you see in the movie Alien where the hands come out.
right.
That's kind of what my hands look like. So it's been a challenge throughout my career, having people
Shoot, don't
shake my
sound like
hand
it.
in the
Look,
first place.
listen. It don't sound like it. 26 cars. Listen, talk to somebody. There's folks out there right now that's not even they selling 6 cars, okay? And
Yes.
so they gonna say that they got to challenge it. I mean, I'm sure you, of course, me being blind, I can say this, right? So of course I know you experience your challenges, but 210,000. Look, somebody gonna say, "Oh, I'm not at 10,000."
Right.
So no, man, totally an inspiration again, because even with those challenges, you still found a way to make the money. You still find a way to help your customers and all of that key stuff, right?
Hmm.
And so I think for me, that's the reason, Sean, why I wanted him to come on here, because it's like, even with what people would give him the excuse, oh, well, you can't, you can't bend down. Oh, you can't, you know, people, it's gonna feel funny with shaking somebody's hand or whatever. They would say that kind of stuff, but he doesn't let it stop him. That's the reason
Absolutely.
why I wanted him on.
So this is kind of mind blowing, like to me, because honestly, it just I have such a amount of respect for you, man, because there's people that are given um, everything. They're given health, they're given fitness, they're given height. I'm vertically challenged. I'm only 5'5", and they're given height. They're given this, they're given that, and then they still bitch and complain about like stupid things that really don't matter. Let's take this in a different direction for a second, okay?
Okay.
It affects me to my soul and in my heart that one of my best friends in the world, L.A. Williams, the blind master, and I've said this before, he's never seen what his wife looks like. He doesn't get to see a sunset. He doesn't get to see just the beauty that we all take for granted. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And it's almost like, how dare you make bullshit ass excuses? How dare you whine and bitch and complain when there's someone as incredible as LA? You know what I mean? His heart, his soul, his demeanor, his character, his integrity, and his work ethic, and his success. You know what I mean? Like, how dare you bitch and complain when there's people like LA, that do what they do? Then then there's people like you that I just, found out about, not too long ago. I've been in the industry 26 years, and you're just somebody new that I met in the last year. And so again, how does someone that has a rare disease, you know what I mean, that is debilitating, that compromises so much that, that's taken, your feet, that you're a double amputee. And I don't even know, honestly, if I could get out of bed, if I was blind or if I was a double amputee. I don't know if I'm mentally strong enough. I don't know. I would like to think so, but shit, we already know your blood type's been tested. Both of you are living with what other people would be like, I don't want that. I'll do anything, but I don't want to be blind. Or, oh, hell no. I don't want to have anything. I don't want to be amputated. Oh, hell no. You have both some of the most traumatic, scary things that any human beings could ever have. And in the spite of this adversity, I will never say to handicap, because LA is not handicapped. You're not handicapped. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? But you have
Appreciate it.
adversity, you have challenge. And in the face of adversity, you know what it reminds me of? And Nathan, I don't mean any pun intended here, but I got to tell you, you guys both remind me of Lieutenant Dan,
I knew he
from
was going to say because I was thinking it earlier.
you guys remind me of Lieutenant Dan. You're in this storm on the ocean, right? On the
Yeah.
shrimp boat, on bubblegum shrimp boat, and you're like in the face of that's the way that I see LA in my mind, is that he's Lieutenant Dan, and you were definitely more like Lieutenant Dan because of the WMT thing than
Yeah.
LA is. But in spite of that, you are so successful. It is so motivating, because here's my thing, and this is where I'm going to shut up and I'm going to ask you guys some questions here.
All right.
Now I kind of built it up to this thing, right? If you both could do what you do at the level that you do it, then why the hell do we have all these, people that don't have a fraction of the difficulty, a fraction of the adversity, a fraction of the complexities that you both have to live and endure through all day? Why are they bitching and complaining and wallowing in mediocrity? Tell me that, guys.
You want to go first on this, Nate?
Sure. I would say my mindset plays or has played the most vital role in my success, because I have friends, like I grew up with friends and hanging out with a community of other amputees. I'm from Atlanta, so there's the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Hospital. They would do this camp every summer called Adventure Amputee Camp, and we would like 30 kids would get dropped off at the hospital. They all had limb differences, and the parents would drop them off, and then we'd go up to North Carolina and do like a week of like outdoor activities, whitewater rafting, ropes courses, zip lines, and just to kind of like try to help these kids gain a sense of self. And a lot of them showed up like ready to go, ready to have an adventure. And a lot of them, about half of them, showed up terrified because their parents, their whole life, had coddled them. And I'm not just talking about like parents or the people around you, but it's really the people that you surround yourself. Are they going to feed into your negativity? Because, like, I'm going to be real. I wake up and it's hard to get out of bed, but I don't have people around me who are just like, okay, stay in bed. You need to take the day off. No, my folks, my mom especially, and she is a powerhouse of a person. She never, ever, ever treated me like I had anything wrong with me. If I was complaining, she was like, well, other than what's going on with you, everything works, right? It's like, other than the price of the car, everything works, right? Like she would be, she would just blaze past my objection and say, "You're here now, so what are you gonna do?" And I feel like a lot of people don't choose to not surround themselves because they either have uh, they don't have the will to do it, they're uncomfortable, and yeah, it's a hard hole to dig yourself out of, but you can't do it alone. And like people like Anthony Castillo, he being his roommate for 2 years in Colorado was an incredible learning experience because he never has treated me like I was different. Like if I had a bad day at work and I was like complaining about my legs, looking for someone to feed into my BS, he would just be like, dude, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And I would just have to swallow that. And that's something that I had to ingrain in my mind was like, even though I feel like I'm not fine, I actually am. Because I've been in worse situations where, crap's hit the fan in my life. And I realized, oh, all this other stuff that I was complaining about doesn't really matter. It's okay that I'm an amputee because there are way worse things that could happen. There are way worse things that could affect my life that are out of my control. What I can control right here is my attitude towards what I was born with. I can't change that. So the only thing I can control is my attitude. That's, and a lot of these kids would show up at amputee camp just terrified. And I think it's because they'd never been put in a situation where they were challenged. And I think you have to absolutely be willing to put yourself into situations that are challenging. Otherwise, there's like nowhere for your brain to go as far as developing a new perspective on life.
What you just said, Nathan, was the first habit of the 7 habits of highly effective people: be proactive. Dr. Covey talks about circle of influence versus circle of concern. And what that means is that there's 2 paradigms that human beings live with, okay? Paradigm one is things that they can't control. That might be the manufacturer. That might be what a prospect says. That might be, the weather. That might be the election. Whatever it might be, there's certain things that you cannot control. And then there is, which is again circle of concern versus circle of control, the things that you can control. And you hit it spot on. You said your attitude. What Covey says is that you can control your thoughts, actions, and behaviors. Now, there is a serenity prayer. I love the actual verbiage to this because this is what it says. It's so powerful. It says, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I'm going to repeat that. Grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So what Covey talks about, so off the serenity prayer now to what Covey says that truly effective people, successful people, wealthy people, effective people, they understand that there's a difference between circle of concern and circle of influence. And you'll never be able to just wipe out all concern. But the goal is to stop stressing and obsessing as much on the things that you cannot control. Spend more time on the things that you can, which is your attitude, thoughts, actions, and behaviors. And it is so validating to me to hear you say that, because I've been studying Covey and being a fan of Covey and try to implement his principles for 16 years. And to hear someone as inspiring as you, Nathan, and as successful as you basically say that that's what your MO is. That's pretty dope. LA?
Well, before I respond to that, I do want to remind folks what they have control over, which is their internet response time. See, a lot of us take way too long to respond to internet prospects. And so what happens is they move on and go work with somebody else. And by the time you call them, you're getting a bought elsewhere, right? Y'all know how we get those. But if we were to get the assistance of Podium's AI BDC, Jerry responds in 15 seconds or less. And so what then happens is you end up booking way more test drives. You end up connecting with customers way faster, and you end up beating out your competition. So if that's what you want and you're tired of all the bought elsewhere, you're tired of whining about that, well, then all you got to do is go to podium.com/MCS. And if you don't feel like typing, just click the link in the show notes and just get the problem solved so your people can stop whining about things they can't control and do like my man Nate here and start making the money. Now, here's the challenge, right? For other people, my problems are not their problems, right? So they ain't thinking about LA and his blind self, and Nate and his double amputee self. They're thinking about the fact that I can't do whatever it is that they think they can't do, right? It's all about where we put our focus. And so when we focus on our problems, what happens? Our problems grow. See, what Nate and I have learned to do is say, you know what? So what I can't. So I'm the author of the book, So What I Can't, the guide to winning in the face of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Right. And then why did I write a book like that? Because that's what folks need to be thinking. Instead of be worrying about, well, I can't do this and I can't do that, and this is happening, that's happening. So what I can still win. Right. There's nothing that is not within my grasp. I had a conversation with one of Nate's friends, Yasser, the other day, and I'm like, listen, there's nothing that is unavailable to you. I don't care, what you think it might be. You can have any and everything that you want as long as you're willing to prepare yourself and become the kind of person that's worthy of having it, right? But people don't see themselves like that, right? They see themselves in their current conditions and, oh, this is not good and this is not good and this has changed me and now I'm a worse person and after this happened to me now I'm this. Okay, but here's the other part you're not realizing. You think you had to be the person that you were to get where you want to go, but that's not how it works, right? You have to become a new person. And so if you want to become a new person, sometimes you got to go through some stuff, right? Just understand that because once you go through some stuff, well, now you understand what it's like. It's so crazy because y'all know I teach financial services and everything like that. And so sometimes I'm, working with people who are teaching financial services that may not have quite had the financial background that they would like to have in order to feel worthy of teaching financial services. But here's the key. If you ain't never been broke, right, how are you going to talk to someone who is not currently in the best financial position, who, let's just say, is broke? How are you going to truly understand where they're coming from? You can't get it, right? It just cracks me up. Like there's a gentleman who did that whole fit to fat to fit thing, right? Like he wanted to understand what it was like to be overweight and out of shape and get back in shape so that now he can identify with his clients. I think
you're talking about Drew Manning, LA.
Right? But like that's what it's supposed to be like, right? How in the world can I, as the blindfold master, how can I teach someone how to be great on the phones if I've never sucked on the phones? And I promise you, it has happened, right? The very first time I took a phone call at a Toyota dealership, right? Somebody said, is the car available? And I was like, and they hung up the phone on me. And I was like, I felt so horrible about it, right? But I could never tell that story if I wasn't first willing to be bad before I got good, right? Sean, how could he teach someone how to build a business and become successful and help to generate over $12 billion for his clients if he hasn't first been the kind of person who had absolutely nothing? Like, my man, listen, can I tell the story? So like he stole books from the like he was I need to get this information. He found the way to get books and stuff like that into his so he could learn, so he could develop. I mean, it wasn't handed to him. You understand what I'm saying? So again, if you're not the kind of person that has been the kind of person that you're trying to coach, how can you truly identify? It doesn't work the same way. And so for us, like what I'm saying and what I'm really hoping to express is that we just got to change where our focus lies. Let's stop focusing on what we can't do, what the problems are, and let's focus on solutions. And I know you've heard that before, but hopefully I'll put it in a totally different light for you.
Absolutely. And I want to definitely evolve the conversation in a couple of moments. I want to transition. I'm not there yet, but when we hit a little bit past the halfway mark, LA, I want to get tips, advice, best practices from Nathan, because obviously he's doing something to be able to sell as many cars and to make as much money as he can. But I still want to ride this wave a little bit about these whiny, bitchy, complaining people in the industry. The thing is this, we say that car sales is like running or owning your own business. I'm going to repeat that. Car sales is like owning your own business. I love and hate that statement because I love it because it can be true, but it's not true for most people. And here's the caveat. Car sales can be like running your own business or owning your own business if you treat it like it's your own business. If you act like a business owner, if you act like an entrepreneur, but if you act like a whiny, bitchy, entitled person, that's looking for your government cheese and your socialist, privileges, then you're going to suffer in this industry.
That's good.
Thank you. And again, I just wanted to say to you both, it just blows my mind that I'm sitting on a Zoom with two people. One's black. What is your nationality, Nathan?
Filipino American.
Okay. And so one African American, one Filipino American, right? Again, and one's a double amputee with the rare disease, and then we got another one that's blind. And then, as Ellie alluded to, I have my own issues as being poor, being locked up and losing 6 years of my life and having nothing. And so here, three successful people are in the same industry. This is why I love this industry. This industry is really simple if you know the rules of engagement. I'm going to repeat that, folks, listeners. This industry is easy if you understand and respect the rules of engagement. What you put into this industry is what you're going to get out of it. If all you're putting into it is the minimum effort, then you're going to get minimum results. If all you're doing is bitching, complaining, and making excuses, you're going to be living that reality of those excuses and the complacency and the mediocrity. However, if you change that paradigm, both of these guys, Nathan said it, it's mindset. If you believe that you could be successful, even if you just use Nathan in LA, hell, if I was a salesperson and I was in a slump, or if I was a salesperson who just got into the industry, or if I was a salesperson that had a crappy attitude, or if I was one of those codependent, dependent, whiny, bitchy people, I'd be like, man, if there is a blind African American dude that is massively successful and being completely blind and he sells cars and does videos, man, maybe I can too. Hey, if there's a guy that's a Filipino American, named Nathan that's got amputee, and if he's selling cars like candy bars and making more than a deuce a year, maybe I can too. Maybe I can too. Just maybe I can too.
Hey bartender, you assume that I cannot drink a margarita, so you don't serve me a margarita? So I don't drink a margarita. Your assumption becomes reality. And parents, you assume that I cannot live on my own, so you don't encourage me to live on my own. So I don't live on my own. Coach, you assume that I cannot hit harder, so you don't train me to hit harder, so I don't hit harder. And teacher, you assume that I cannot learn Shakespeare, so you don't teach me Shakespeare.
Old MacDonald had a farm.
So I don't learn Shakespeare. E-I-E-I-O. But hey, if all your assumptions become reality, then assume that I can drink a margarita. You serve me a margarita, so I drink a margarita. Assume that I can live on my own, so I live on my own. Assume that I can hit harder, so I hit harder. Assume that I can learn Shakespeare. So, what fools these mortals be! I learned fucking Shakespeare. You assume I can swear, right? Assume that I can do that job, that I can go to parties, that I can have sex, that I can be on stage. Assume that I can. So maybe I will.
So now, if we could all just understand that there's that maybe I can too possibility, let's get into this. I want to start with Nathan and then LA, you're on deck. Okay, Nathan, tell us some of your best practices. Tell us how the hell do you sell 26 cars? Give us what you think, deconstruct your formula for success, please.
Given the fact that I'm a pretty unique looking individual, I can pretty easily build rapport with people. My customers kind of follow me around when they see me with no legs, and I turn around and pivot on my prosthetics and go, follow me. And I try to be a little bit self-deprecating, like, hey, if we end up not doing something today, just remember I'm the only guy here with no legs, so you can come back and ask for the guy with no legs. Like, I don't even have to have a business card at that point because I've already established that I'm a super unique individual. And so if my customer is complaining about their income, I can definitely be like, hey, I can identify with, struggling. I myself struggle a little bit. I like to stay, but my best practices are like rapport. You can never break rapport. And I try to, the one thing that really carried me through the industry for this long has been my ability to build rapport and to identify. Let me let you know this. Like, if I get a disabled customer in the store, they're not leaving. They're not leaving because I've got them. I've got that facet of our lives that coincide, and so they're gonna. I build incredible trust with my customers, just based off the fact that they look at me and they go, "Oh, this guy's hustling." And not only is he hustling as a normal person, he's hustling as someone with no legs. He's running across 7 acres of cars to go grab me a truck. I'll feel bad if I don't buy a car from this guy. Like, I've used that as a close where one guy was like, mid-30s was like, I don't know if I can afford this. And I was like, I took off one of my legs and I put it on the desk. I said, this leg cost me $7,500, just the left side. The right side also cost me $7,500. You can't tell me you can't afford this truck. And he bought the car. He laughed. He was like, oh man, you're so right. You're so right. And he signed the paperwork. Like,
So,
I try to.
so you're the first one to create the double amputee close.
Yeah, I leave plenty of leg on the deal. So um,
That
That's
is hilarious. You just triggered something though of a thought. Do you know how like Tiana T got your keys? We talk about her and how she markets to her tribe, which is
mhm,
females, Latinas, and people from the LGBT community.
yeah.
You mentioned about disabled, and if you have disabled people, are you part of any groups, support groups, or medical? Hospitals or whatever it is that you are around a lot of disabled people? Or do you have access to disabled people? Do you target disabled people to sell them cars?
I don't necessarily target disabled people. They kind of annoy me sometimes.
Oh my God,
uh,
LA said the same thing about blind people. LA's hilarious. LA doesn't like, sometimes dealing with blind people too. So
yeah.
I get that. How are you blind
uh,
and not like deal with blind people? Or how are you amputee? You don't like dealing with other amputees?
So I've gotten better with it, y'all. I've actually, I'm
yeah,
a part of the Thriving Blind Academy. But when I was younger, absolutely, I couldn't stand it. But I've grown.
yeah. And just like LA, I've when I was younger, being part of the groups at Children's Healthcare, being part of the counseling group at the Venture Amputee Camp, that really like kind of opened the door to me having more of a soft spot for people because like I could sit here all day and be like, oh, I'm doing it. It's so easy for you as a normal person. Like, what's your excuse? But when it comes to my disabled customers, I really try to kill them with kindness. I try to identify super strong with them. The only real groups I keep up with right now with amputees is the Amputee Coalition and Challenge Athletes Foundation. Because Challenge Athletes Foundation will like pay for your prosthetics if you're trying to get like a sports prosthetics or like your wheelchair if you're in wheelchair basketball, things along that line. So sometimes some of my friends or people in that group will have me assist them with doing their cover letter, formatting their like life story, because you have to do like these submissions with an application to get those grants. And having done that for my own running prosthetics, I kind of help mentor people who are like growing up from the younger generation at the camp because the amputee camp ranges from kids who are 10 years old up to 18. So some of the kids I went to camp with, they were 10 at the time. Now they're getting out of the house, getting into real life, and they're realizing, oh, this stuff is really expensive. uh, I can't count on donors. So I try to help those people with formatting and submitting those applications so they can get the equipment that they want.
Yeah.
I'm not as much of like a let's hang out type of dude with the community. I'm more of like a what do you need? Let's get it done type of.
If you have
Uh,
access to these people, you don't ever let them know that you're in the automotive industry or their parents that you're in the automotive industry, and if they ever needed any help,
yeah,
with anything automotive, that you're there to help them either as a consultant or a product advisor or as a salesperson.
I've been really lackadaisical on marketing myself as an amputee salesperson, but I do reach out to my friends on Facebook, and when they're asking about a car, a lot of them don't drive, so that's kind of been like the thing that stopped me from selling more cars to those people. But having gone to the Unfair Advantage conference just last month, I kind of decided that I want to figure out a way to market myself as an amputee because I feel like that could be huge for me.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
think about what you just said in this interview. You said, and I'm going to quote that if you get a disabled person in front of you, that's it. They're done. You're selling them a car. So if you're that confident, which I definitely can understand and agree with you, then why are you not looking for all the disabled people? And here's the thing is this, bro, like you just said something I want to respectfully correct you. I don't really focus on it because they don't drive. Fucking neither does LA, but he buys the car. He's
Right.
making the and so, LA, talk about that. And this is not just for Nathan, but for all the dealers that are listening. We've done stuff with some of the top diversity and inclusion people in the world. LA was a special guest. LA, can you talk about that experience and then how, people get overlooked? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're the ones that could afford it or paying for it or whatever. So explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. So understand that 40% of all vehicle sales are influenced by someone with a disability, right? So for me, right, I'm totally blind, but again, when my wife and I buy the car, when they come into for the finances, right? And so for me, making sure everything is not always touchscreen is important to me, right? There's a lady who I sold a car to that her son was in a wheelchair. So the whole conversation centered around making sure that it was the right type of vehicle. It had the special feature that allowed his wheelchair to go up in the van or the truck or whatever it was. So like these are the types of things that you got to kind of think about. There are people who are influenced by people who have disabilities, right? And so you're absolutely right. The disability community is growing faster than the Hispanic community is growing, like 5% faster, right? So 26% of America has a disability. So if we're not going to focus on those folks, then I'm telling you, you're missing out on a whole lot of money, right? They talk about how 85% of car sales are influenced by females. Well, listen, true. I mean, we ain't all the way up there, right? But at 40%, it's a big enough number. So I've had plenty of conversations. Tiana and I, we spoke at NADA all about the business benefits of hiring people with disabilities and or minorities. It's the same situation when it comes to selling to folks with a quote unquote disability, handicap, challenge, right? You got to make sure that you are understanding the power and the influence that they actually bring to the table. You don't want to miss that.
Got to tell you, this is a very unique episode of the Millionaire Car Salesman podcast. And, I appreciate, the insight. So LA, let's redirect and let's talk about how can we frame our prospects' minds, our prospects, our listeners' minds for mindset. How can we get them to focus the right way? Because we talked about why, they're complaining and the bitching and this and that. Well, what can we do to change it?
Yeah. Well, the easy, this is one of those things, and I think everything in life is like this, but it's one of those key times where we can say it's easier said than done, right? I think that, I know that's the case with everything in life, but the truth of the matter is we got to count our blessings, right? Look at the positive things that are happening in your life. Practice gratitude, right? If you understand that gratitude and negativity cannot exist in the same space at the same time. And so I think if we truly understood that, right, as soon as you got negative about something, listen, you would use the rule that I do, 17 seconds, right? You got to kill the thought within 17 seconds because that's how long it takes for a thought seed to germinate, right? So for me, if I happen to get negative, I know I got to wipe it away within 17 seconds and well, you know what? But at least, you know what? But I am thankful for this, but I do appreciate this, right? And that's how you got to kind of think. That's how you attack life for real, for real. So if, by the time most folks hear this, because I know you guys are watching on this, live on the timeline, live in the group and all of that good stuff. But by the time this airs, right, it's going to be September 3rd, right? So we have just completed Labor Day. You're going to say, wow, I'm so behind or whatever it is. You could approach it that way, or you could say, wow, I just had a nice day of rest. I'm ready to charge, right? I'm thankful I spent some time with my family, right? So we could look at the same exact situation one of two different ways. Most people, as I said, they look at it from the negative side. But if we learn to focus and channel our energy and looking at the positive side, people say, oh, LA, you always spinning stuff. Well, why would I not, right? Like it doesn't put any money in my pocket to look at things from a negative perspective, right? I've never been paid, Sean, for creating a problem for somebody, right? I've always been paid for creating the solution for somebody. Now, sometimes we do got to expose the problem to create the solution, right? As great salespeople, that's what we do. But I'm telling you that there's no money in looking at the negative side. There's no benefit of that. I ask a lot of times I'll have a client or someone having a conversation and they're like, well, but I just do such and such and such and such, like from a negative thing. And I go, well, how much money is that paying you? Like, how's that been working for you? How's that getting you to the life that you actually want to live, right? So for me, of course, I'm a spinning. There's two sides. Life is a duality, right? There's two sides to a piece of bread, right? You ever seen a one-sided piece of bread? No. You ever seen a one-sided piece of paper? No. So everything in life has two sides to it. You have to decide, are you going to be the negative Nancy, right? That's going to have a horrible life because that's what you focus on. Or are you going, see, people think, oh, LA, you're just so positive. And so, you make a shit sandwich look like such and such and such and such. No, that's not the case at all. It's because I understand. How do I find, I dig in the dirt, I dig in the shit and pull out the seeds of of positivity, right? Every adversity has the seed of opportunity in it. It don't have opportunity in it, and that's what people think is the case. It's not how it works, right? It's the seed, and then I take the seed and I go and plant it, and I water it, and I nurture it, and I get it to what I want in life because I know what I want out of life. So again, if you are the kind of person where you're like, okay, what do I do from right here? First of all, do you know what you want, right? Let's figure out what you want. And if even if that's motivated by the things that you don't want, again, let's get very clear on it. Okay, now that you know what you want, now let's say, okay, what are the things that I'm focusing on that's either pulling me away from my goals and dreams? To all my blind people, I'm like leaning away from the screen, right? Or am I moving closer to my goals and dreams? I gotta check. Right, literally, you should have. And at one point in time in my development career, I had a alarm that would go off every single hour and say, "Hey, LA, what you're doing right now, is it moving you closer to your goals and dreams or further away?" And so it was a constant check as to see, okay, what's going on with me every single hour of the day. I think these are the types of things that and listen, Ali Rader says he does it every 15 minutes, right? He would check and see, hey, what was I doing over the last 15 minutes? And so that's why he, that's where he is, right? Cody said he's done the similar things, right? And so, but most people don't want to do the work necessary. But if you're willing to do it, you can have the things that you want to have. Sean, what do you say all the time? How come people don't have what they want to have, right? How come people don't lift weights? How come they not all buff and everything like that? Because the weights are freaking heavy, right? And so most people don't want to do it, right?
Lift weights because they're heavy.
Yep, absolutely, right? And so that's the thought process, right? And what I always say is that the difference between winning and losing is so minute that it appears ridiculous. And so most of us never make the adjustment. They go, it can't be that simple. Okay, keep thinking that way.
Nathan, what about you? What's your thoughts? How do you create that positive mindset in spite of all the adversity?
The Millionaire Car Salesman podcast is on your radio.
Have you gone through any of Cody Carter's training that we have on there, or Ali Retta yet, or those big dogs?
Not yet. Those everything's been so exciting with just like I started with the to brush up on showroom sales again, because now we're back to like selling and not taking orders. I've been brushing up on that, but like I'm just afraid that if I click on that, I'm gonna get 100% sucked into that, and like it's so much information, but it's in a digestible form, and now I'm going back on myself because I did say it's like 2, 3, 4 minute videos in each like segment, which I could dive into it, but it's like I already know that Cody Carter thing's like that is probably gonna blow my mind.
Yeah, man.
The moment I watch it,
Listen, if you don't have access to Bradley On Demand, you're missing out on crucial information. The top automotive groups like Coons, Lithia, and Norm Reeves have all used Bradley On Demand to train their teams. And guess what? The world's #1 car salesman, Cody Carter, shares his exclusive strategies right here. You want his secrets? You gotta have Bradley On Demand. Stop waiting and start winning. Dominate your market. Click the link and get access now.
It's a daily struggle. I feel like I'm always constantly doing self-maintenance. So the things that have gotten me out of, because like when I was in high school, I was a very extremely depressed, unmotivated person, just like every other high schooler, except I had no legs. So I was stopped with the negative self-talk, because negative self-talk is just projected anxiety. Negative self-talk didn't get anybody anywhere because it really does nothing for you. You should be critical of yourself, but you shouldn't be the guy walking around like, I suck, I messed up, and obsess over that. You have to be, like we already talked about gratitude, but gratitude is one of those things that a lot of people just are out of practice on. And for me, I would be very resentful in high school because I'll never have friends, I'll never have a girlfriend. Who's gonna love me the way I look? And I had to be grateful for my family, the fact that I had a good group of core friends around me, the fact that I have an awesome dog, just counting those things. For me, a big part of it is not just mindset, but it's physical health. My mom is a nationally certified nutritionist, and she's a life coach. And she said, part of your problem is that you've been eating like shit and that you don't stretch and you don't work out to combat the symptoms of your condition. Because my condition, if I don't stretch, if I don't work out, if I'm not constantly active, my body will start to turn inward. Literally, my hands will start to like get more sore, and my shoulders will start to hurt, my neck will start to hurt. So it's physical maintenance. You have to be honest with yourself. Like you can try to expect yourself to feel as good as you want, but at some point, if you're not taking care of your physical health, you can only get halfway there. So a lot of people just in the industry, they they show up at the dealership, they skip lunch, they don't drink water, and then they wonder why around 3 p.m. they feel like they don't have no energy. Well, brother, you should have packed a lunch. You should have eaten a good breakfast. You should have brought your Gatorade because it's 100 degrees outside right now. Like physical health is half the battle of a mental mindset. Because if you feel bad, it just makes it that much harder for you to be uh, realistic about your objectives and realistic about your actual emotional state. Because you don't know if your emotional state is due to the fact that you don't have enough iron in your head, or if you got like a a deficiency somewhere, or if it's actually a mindset thing. Because sometimes people are depressed and they have literally no reason to be depressed, and it's because of their health. And then for me, it was like shooting small enough. I don't know if you guys have heard that, but a lot of people look at other people as the object of what they want to be. Like, I want to be a 30-car salesperson, but they think in big terms that are too big to achieve. And you have to be realistic about your daily action based goals and shooting small enough. Like, today, I want to talk to 10 people, that type of stuff. That stuff is manageable for me. But if I was today to be like, I want to be a 30-car salesperson every month and just try to rough it and grind it out with no plan uh, and no small enough goal, I'm never going to feel that sense of reward for doing just even that little step that gets me closer to that. And I don't think a lot of people celebrate those tiny steps enough. Like,
Mm.
oh, today I made 30 calls. What if you didn't sell a car, but you still made 30 calls? You still got out of your box of making no calls to make 30 calls. You should celebrate the fact that you tried, um, even if the results don't pan out right now, because you're not going to go from a 10 car to a 30 car salesperson necessarily overnight. And so, yes, shooting small enough has been a big thing for me. No negative self-talk, gratitude, and physical health. Because for me, physical health is just something I just got to do every day to stay on top of it. But
Absolutely.
even if you got a fully able body, there are 10,000 different things that could affect your mind state that you may not know about that's going on. So I recommend everybody get a physical, everybody learn a little bit more about nutrition, and pack a lunch or something. Because a lot of the guys I work with, they just crash out in the middle of the afternoon. I'm like, bro, you haven't eaten. I've been sitting next to you all day. You haven't eaten nothing.
Right. Man, listen, I like that. Pack your lunch, boys. Let's go. Right. But
Yeah, pack
what
your
I hear
lunch.
you, what I hear you saying, man, is like and I hear it could be viewed as shooting small enough. What you're talking about to me is not necessarily goals. It's what I call objectives. Right. It's
Yeah,
like
objectives.
I don't have. Like I'm not a big, I set these big goals. I'm the kind of person where it's like, if I want the big goal, like, let me just make sure I do these things every single day, right? Those are object. So I'm just going to do this. And if I do that, then eventually, of course, I'm going to get to my dadgum goal, right? And so understand that objectives is kind of the whole thought process, right? For
Mm-hmm.
me, man, let because it's almost like the results don't matter, right? Now, obviously they
Mm-hmm.
do, but the thought process is, hey, I'm not worried about being this great YouTuber, right? I'm worried about getting better every single day, right? It's like the
Mm-hmm.
whole Kaizen thought process. Sean talks about that, right, Sean?
Absolutely. The art of continuous improvement, Kaizen, which is a Japanese philosophy that a lot of these OEMs adopt. If you want 100% change, you don't find one thing and change it 100%. You find 100 things to change 1% collectively, that equals 100% change. LA, I also want to kind of touch on what Nathan said as far as celebrating wins. Like, I want to deconstruct everything you said. So with that,
Milestones, yeah.
yeah, milestones. For whatever reason, a lot of people in the dealership are not communal. Like, if somebody does something, nobody else gives a shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so demoralizing. It's so frustrating. It's so anticlimactic because Think about this, especially if you're a manager or owner listening to this podcast. Can you imagine if you have a salesperson that's a 30 car, 30 car, 30 car, 30 car person, and you've got a 10 car person, and that person has been in the business for 3 years and they've never sold more than 13 cars ever. In their mind, they're never going to be a 30 car person. They're so far out. But man, if that person gets to 14 cars, to them, it's like they just hit 30 cars and nobody gives a shit because it's only 14 cars. To that person, it's important. I think that dealers and managers especially need to do a better job in the one-on-ones and in the group stuff to celebrate people because someone's strengths. I'll give you an example. And again, neither one of you guys are handicapped. You guys are both superstars. I want to just say that because I don't want to canceled online because I'm what I'm about to say. You are both adversely challenged in different ways. Let's say it that way. And if you guys were on the floor and you guys sold X amount of cars, that's great. But you know what I mean? Like I would be so impressed that you did X amount, even if it wasn't what other people are doing. And look at this though, because your guys' mindset, I think that's the number one secret to both of your guys' successes is your mindset that you refuse to give up. You refuse to be a victim of your circumstances. And because your mindset and your tenacity is so strong, you don't just exist or are average, both of you are way above average. So I think that some people are not naturally built with a mindset. And they're not built with that insatiable fire, raging fire of motivation and positivity and success. So LA, this is what I want you to talk about. This is where it's important for coaches. This is where it's important for owners or GSMs, GMs, sales managers, internet directors, or consultants like Dealer Synergy. This is why managers and consultants and trainers need to coach because certain people don't have that. If you've been abused or neglected or life's beat you down, you might not be at that perfect maturity level to be as positive. So don't you think, LA, that it's important to have upper management or ownership or coaches or trainers to be able to be around you, to love you, to support you, to cheer you on, to kind of get you? It's almost like jump starting a battery, or it's almost like shooting you with an adrenaline shot. That's what I think it needs to happen. LA, speak on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, it's so crazy that you say that because just last week we had Jenna on the podcast, and that is one of the secrets to her success, right? She does understand that, okay, if you've never set 5 appointments before and you set 5 appointments, right? Oh my gosh, like I'm going to make a huge deal out of that, right? She pays attention to what's going on with her people. And that's why she was able to, kind of get people from doing, basically nothing and kind of like their lower numbers. And now they're selling 30, 40 cars because she understood that exact concept, right? She loved her people individually, right? Of course, she loved her team, right? But she loved on her people, and y'all understand what I'm saying. Loves, like she gave a crap, right, about each individual person, and everybody's situation was different, right? And it's like, okay, cool. Well, hey, listen, I'm going to celebrate you when you get to 21 because you've always been at 20 or 19 or whatever situation. But this other person, as you said, man, this person hits 14, man, I'm going to celebrate like the stars falling, right? I'm gonna do everything in my power. So absolutely. And here's the other part of it. As this year at NAD, I'm speaking about emotional intelligence, right? A lot of times, because what happens is, and it could be for a number of different reasons, but I'll just say because the unemotional intelligent salesperson got promoted to sales manager who got promoted to this person, it didn't all of a sudden make them get the intelligence to be able to. No one ever taught them how to be a good manager. Nobody ever taught them how to do that stuff. And of course, I ain't making no excuses for them. I'm just saying that that's why it is what it is. Now, it is their responsibility to realize and go, wow, nobody ever taught me this. Let me go learn it, right? Let me go get me some books, kind of like Sean, right? Sean ain't never been no daggum business owner. How in the world? What if he just accepted that, oh, well, I never been a business owner before, so it's okay that I mess it all up and everything like that. No, he develops and gets better every single, man, I'm telling you, and I don't know, Sean, but I've seen your growth since, what do I got started business like 2009? I've known you since like '07, right? So it's like, I've seen obviously tons and tons of growth over the years, but there's some people some people that we might know very closely because they might be the parents of our kids. Like you don't that growth doesn't quite happen, right? Or it doesn't happen like the same way you might see someone who's striving for the growth, right? Some people just trip over growth, and that's not how you want to live your life. That's all I'm saying.
So Nathan, what are your biggest challenges that you deal with in the day to day? Is it honestly your medical condition, your double amputee status, your disease, or is it just the bullshit at the dealership, just dealing with everything else? Like, what would you say you personally, what your biggest challenges are being successful?
It's definitely not the bullshit at the dealership because I've worked at 5 different stores in my entire career. They're all the same. Uh, they all got a slow service department. They all got a porter who's kind of weird. Um, I can't point fingers at where I work, and I can't point fingers at the fact that I chose to work there. So when I come to work, I always am better at work when I'm taking care of myself. And I think that's where it all stems from. Because I look at myself sort of like a video game character. Like when you play a video game, they got a bunch of different versions, and when you start out, some have higher stats in one area than other stats. I'm just the guy who didn't get all the physical stats, but I got creativity, positivity. I got a really killer family. Like that stat was through the roof for me when I was born. So I try to look at things like a video game. And when I think about tasks, I literally see like an objective in my periphery of things I got to do. I got to go check that key back in. I got to move this car. I got to make sure I call this guy before. And the more you just parse things out and take care of yourself, the easier those little things become. So I treat my life like basically the video game that you can't turn off. And that's what for me gets me through the day. And it's not the dealership. The dealership is just the place that I showed up at. And so I try to wake up every morning and just wire my head to be like, oh, I might feel bad, but things are about to get really great. Things are about to get really great, and I'm going to head into work, and I'm going to have a good attitude towards it, because there's probably a bunch of stuff that's going to piss me off when I get there, but I can choose right now to acknowledge the fact that those things are about to happen, so they're not a surprise. And I feel like a lot of people just get their ship rocked because they're surprised and caught off guard by life. They don't mentally prepare for the fact that, oh, this is my life. It is tough. Like, it's an election year. Things kind of suck, but they don't acknowledge that fact and go into it with a commitment to not let that bother them. Like, you have to mentally commit that the things that are about to happen to me, I'm not going to let them bother me. That's how I like to show up.
Let me say this before LA closes us out, because you've said it a couple times. I would agree, is that a lot of times people don't take care of themselves, because when you're working, especially a bell to bell, a 12-hour shift. I remember when Tiana would have to drive almost an hour to go to Patriot Buick GMC, work a bell to bell, and then drive an hour home, 14-hour days. That's not normal, but they happen sometimes. And when you are working a 10, 12, 14 plus hour shift, you might not eat breakfast, or you might not hydrate the right way. And so there's physical things that you need to do. I know that I used to pound energy drinks, and I used to have the orange monsters, and I'm dealer synergy orange. And I used to have my orange can, and dealers would have an orange can ready for me because they see me on it online. And I had a heart aneurysm. I'm not saying it was 100% because of the energy drinks, but I could tell you this: at 48 years old, I am now taking some of the money that I became rich off of. Like, I have a lot of money, and I take that money and I've got to have doctors, or I do NovaCare, I do this, I do that, because for the last 20 years, I didn't take as good of myself physically. I mean, that was probably the place that I neglected the most, was my physical health, like sleep, hydration, this, that, and the other thing. But I want to add this though: mental health. It's not just physical health that people need. Sometimes, and this is a PSA, this is a public service announcement to owners and senior managers. If you want to get more production, you want to get more cars sold, you want to get more appointments made from the BDC, it's not just teaching your salespeople, your BDC reps, objections and rebuttals and word tracks and skills. That's definitely part of it, but it's only part of the ecosystem. Because if your employees are unhappy because they're having marital problems or relationship problems, or they're having problems with their kids, they're missing their kids' baseball game or their daughter's, ballet, thing, or whatever it is, you're withdrawing from the emotional bank account. And so you're never going to get the peak performance. If somebody is unhealthy, if somebody is, have back pains, or they're exhausted or whatever, it's not productive. So the ideal situation is mind, body, and soul, meaning that you want a team member, employee to be capable to do their job. You want them to have the skills to pay the bills. I get that. But in addition to the skills, they need to have their mental sanity. They need to be emotionally right, because if they are physically healthy and they're emotional healthy and they've got the skills, man, that is going to be unstoppable. LA, I want you to close out.
Absolutely, man. But for real, I want to kind of hear from Nathan real quick. Because obviously you came on this podcast. What is it that you want people to know? You came here for a reason. You're here. Sean and I are here all the time, right? What do you want the automotive industry to know? What do you want to share from your heart that you feel like will help somebody make some more daggone money?
You have to believe that you have, like, that you're worth it. A lot of people don't have the self-worth, because there's a difference between what you are and what you think about yourself. Yep. Because you may not be all there, and a lot of people kind of just obsess over that and say, I'm not worth it. And that just seeps into every single thought that you have and all your perceptions and how you approach a new customer.
Yeah, you just spoke it into existence.
Yeah, and you think it into existence. So it's like, we're all humans. We all, my personal beliefs aside, but we all are worth something. Mm-hmm. We have intrinsic value. So we treat other people like that. We treat our friends like they have value, but we forget to treat ourselves like we have value. Because, and going back to the video game analogy, this is the game that I'm signed up to play, whether I like it or not. So why would I choose to not think that my character is the most important, influential character in my life? Because if it's a game and you're playing it, your character is the thing that you should worry about first and foremost, as far as self-respect, the acknowledgement that you have the skills, that you have the means, that you have the platform to launch off on. I think the problems that get into the dealership don't come from the dealership. They come from each and every individual at home and their individual mindset about how much they think they're worth. Because I think in this generation, we hugely devalue people. We hugely devalue the fact that when people do something right, we don't celebrate it. We focus way more on when people do something wrong. And so with ourselves, we focus way more on when we mess up than when we actually have a small success, no matter how small it is. So the thing I want to say to everybody is, like, I come from a place where I've been stared at my whole life. Some people draw their hand back when I would go to shake their hand because my hand looks weird. And so I could sit here and let that bother me, but I'm totally fine now just doing a fist bump. I don't try to post people up. It's not about them. It's about how I react. So what I want people to know is just love yourself, love who you are, because you can't change it. You can't change what you got going on and what you were born with.
Certain aspects, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can change the things you can change, but at a certain point, you got to be able to.
It goes back to the serenity prayer. Sean,
I have
about,
worth.
right?
I have value, and a lot of people don't think they have worth and don't think they have value.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I was asking the question on Facebook. I said, are you a leader worth following, right? And some people are like, yeah, and some people were saying all these different answers. It was just hilarious, like the thought process. But listen, the bottom line is, not only are you a millionaire car salesman listener, but you got to believe that you personally are a millionaire car salesman. Why? Because I say it all the time. You are the average of the 5 people who you spend the most time with. And you've just been spending time with L.A. Williams, the blind master, Sean V. Bradley, and my main man, Mr. Nathan Hancock. It's your turn. Go out there and actually do it. Don't pretend to do it and all that kind of stuff. Actually go out there and believe that you are, so that you can be a millionaire car salesman. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.
Fast response times can help you beat the dealer down the street. Get a tool that can respond to your leads in 15 seconds or less. and help you book test drives 24/7, nights and weekends, so you can sell more cars. Podium's AI BDC is a conversational AI employee who sells, schedules, and talks with customers day and night and sounds like your best sales rep. Transform potential interest into sales today with Podium. Visit podium.com/MCS to see what AI can do for your dealership. That's podium.com/MCS or click the link in the show notes.